All right, in today's conversation, I have the privilege of diving a little bit deeper with one of our Reasonable Impact Fellows, Dr. Molly Morse. Molly is the CEO and co founder of a company called Mango Materials. They're based out of the Bay Area. They've been at this game for well over a decade. They have taken what was originally a doctoral thesis into the lab, into prototypes, into market, into commercialization. And today they are converting this incredibly abundant waste known as methane into low-cost, high-value biodegradable materials such as plastic. What that means is they really have a belief that waste facilities are the gold mines of the future, that they can create a economic market of materials that is closer cradle to cradle, and is able to recycle carbon naturally and sustainably into the environment. So in the future, the glasses that I'm wearing, the headphones that I am using for this conversation, they're made out of plastic, but they can be made out of plastic where the input is methane. They're using natural microbes to create this plastic alternative. And at the end of life, if it ends up in the oceans, it biodegrades. And if the microplastics end up in our bloodstream, they get naturally absorbed into our bloodstream without any risk, like the ones that we currently face. So this is going to be a fun conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about the future. It's actually the present. We're going to get to know Molly, go into her past. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I know I will. Molly, I am so grateful and so excited to be reconnecting with you and to have the chance to have this conversation. So I just want to start selfishly on behalf of myself, my own curiosity and admiration for you by saying thank you for making the time.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here today.
And it's been a while since we've actually seen one another. We were just talking right before this. You first came into the Unreasonable Fellowship through a Reasonable Impact program in 2022. So it's been 4 years, I believe. 3.5. That's the better number.
Yeah, 3.5. It's crazy. It's crazy how much has changed.
Yeah, and the world's changed a lot. So we'll pull up into modern times, but first, I want to set the context as to also why it is our team at Reasonable and our partners at Barclays, we're so excited to bring you into the fellowship because what you're doing, you and your team at Mango Materials, it does sound like science fiction. It sounds like something from a utopian future that is not yet baked into reality, and yet you're doing it right
Yeah.
now. And so I'd love for you to describe in your own words what Mango Materials is as a company.
Yeah, well, what we like to say we are is actually hope for the future, specifically addressing plastic pollution. So the plastic challenge is so daunting and so devastating. There's plastic all around us, humans, animals, nature.
Mhm.
And people can feel really helpless, but we're working really hard to change the way plastics are used and end of
Yeah.
life disposal options for plastics when we can still have their benefits without their drawbacks. So, creating another alternative, that's our big dream and our big vision.
Yeah. And how are you creating another alternative?
Yeah, so I can explain a little bit the technical part, science fiction of what Mango does. So we start with methane gas, and methane is a potent greenhouse gas. It's
Yep.
produced from wastewater treatment plants, from landfills, agricultural facilities. It's a key component in natural gas too, but it's often flared, it's often not used. It's also, it can be a potent greenhouse gas. So what we do is we grow bacteria that eat this methane, kinda like how we would eat chocolate, and they take that methane gas and they eat it and they
Mm.
convert it into a naturally occurring polymer that's
Yep.
inside their cell walls.
Yep.
Sort of like how if humans eat a lot of chocolate, we might get really fat. These bacteria, if they eat a lot of methane, they accumulate a lot of this biopolymer inside their cell walls, which we then harvest and use as a replacement for conventional plastics. And there's a lot of stuff, technical stuff that goes on as part of that. But what we ship are these
Yep.
pellets, and that's how plastics are often made. You often have pellets or something you melt down generally to make something. And ours is a different type of polymer, different type of material. So if it accidentally gets disposed of somehow in like the ocean, it will not persist indefinitely. It can break down. So we are working to close the loop on on materials that way. And it's inspired by nature, using microorganisms. So that's like our factories.
Your miniature factories. Where and how did you find these miniature factories, these microorganisms?
So actually, bacteria are some of the most ancient living things on planet Earth. So this pathway, the polymer we make, it's called PHA, polyhydroxyalkanoate. I don't need to go into the technical
I
details
love
here,
it.
list anyone wants.
No, no, let's go.
But it's a process that's a biochemical process that's natural in most living things. So when they're just little bacteria on planet Earth, this pathway is how they evolved to store
Hmm.
carbon in case of famines coming. So plants, animals, bacteria, humans have the ability to produce or consume small levels of these PHA. And what we've done is
Hmm.
enrich these bacteria to have the fastest, fattest PHA producers that we have cultivated as a company that
Yep.
are grown on methane, although other organisms can do this. So, like others are looking at, you'll take sugar or some sort of oil and
Yep.
feed it to bacteria. We take methane as our core technology. And so the bacteria are actually all around us. They're naturally occurring. You can get them from the ocean, you can get them from swamps, you can get them from
Okay.
soils, and we enrich them for the best methanotrophs. Methanotrophs are the type of bacteria that we use.
There's a great adjective, methanotrophs. For those who don't know, methane is significantly more potent in terms of a greenhouse gas emission. Can you compare it to carbon dioxide as an example?
Yeah, I mean, so depending on the time frame you're looking at, it could be 20 to 80 times more potent
Wow.
than carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide gets all the press, but like methane's where it's at, let me tell you.
Methane is definitely where it's at. So this begs the question, and I should be calling you Dr. Molly Morse,
It's okay.
which is what gave you permission to go after methanotropes? Did I say that right? Methanotropes? Yeah, okay, okay.
Yes.
Before we get there, I want to make certain that I am fully understanding this. You are using a as the input ingredient to a plastic alternative, but effectively is plastic. The input is significantly carbon negative because it's methane. Using a biological natural process to convert that into this fat for these microbes, which is in essence plastic. You can convert it into plastic pellets, and then that plastic functions just like petrochemical based plastic does in our daily lives. But at the end of its life cycle, like you said, if it ends up in the oceans, it will naturally break down, and therefore it's carbon negative as an input with full circularity on the output. Is that right?
100% A plus, Daniel.
Okay, A plus. Now that I got it, I have to ask, yeah, what gave you permission? How did you come up with this? How did you discover this? How did you know this was possible? And I'd love just a little bit of the backstory of who you are to be able to do this work.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, well, we could go way back, but,
No, 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 let's actually, you know what? Actually, Molly, let's go way back. You suggested it. You can go back to Genesis if you want, but would love to follow the story and
I was
the
born in
journey of your
Oakland,
story.
California.
Love it. Yep. That's great.
Oh, I mean, there's so much, but yeah, like, it was actually I was born in Oakland, California. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know where we start with the mango, but I think I've been interested in, like, in the environment and actually, like, what happens to things when you no longer need them. I've been interested in that since I was, like,
Mhm.
a fairly small child, like, elementary school for sure,
No way.
and concerned about plastic pollution and litter and stuff like that for sure since elementary school.
Yeah.
Um so that part goes way back. I took a class in undergrad that we called garbage. It wasn't really called garbage, but it was on solid waste management, where I realized that we're not gonna recycle our way out of the plastic pollution
Mhm.
problem. I went to grad school, and I was planning to just go to grad school for 1 year to get a
Mhm.
1-year master's of science because I have an engineering background, and you get paid more as an engineer if you have a master's.
Totally.
But I happened to write a paper on related to sustainability, and a professor read it and said, "Actually, I'm planning to start this whole project on sustainable building materials was the focus.
Love it.
Would you like to stay and get your PhD?" And this was never my plan, but I was like, fully funded PhD from Stanford University, like,
Very
sure, I'll
cool.
say yes. So I was studying, materials that could be used for structural applications, like a replacement for the building industry, really, and I was studying the biodegradation of them. And there were multiple students and professors as part of this process. So, like, my main professor was Sarah Billington, who invited me to stay. But there was a professor, Craig Criddle, who happens to be an expert on methanotrophs and
Yep.
just anaerobic processes in general. And so I was looking at cellulose acetate, soybean oil, like all
Yep.
sorts of different types of material, and loved PHAs, polyhydroxyapatite. I'm
Mm,
like, oh wow, they have
totally.
great properties, physical, mechanical properties, great biodegradability. And so we had this team meeting and 2 co-founders at Mango, but one of my co-founders, Allison Pijo, was there, and Craig Criddle was like, "Actually, PHAs theoretically should be able to be made from methane. Like, normally they're made from sugar." The type I was using, we were purchasing them at Stanford, were made from, other feedstocks. It's like, "Theoretically, this should be used could be manufactured, like, made from methane." And so that was Allison's PhD was,
Hmm,
yes, you can use methane. We would be here before that.
phenomenal.
She identified the process, the microorganisms, and did all this work at Stanford as part of her PhD.
Yeah.
And then after I graduated, I consulted for a bit actually because I had a real technical background,
Yep.
but I saw lots of people starting companies, and
Mm.
it
Because
was very
you were
early.
still in the Bay Area and you were
I
out
was
of
in the Bay
Stanford.
Area.
Yeah.
Yep, I was in the Bay Area, and I saw these people starting companies, and I was like, how hard could it be?" Just
Not that hard, right?
yeah. Sometimes I go back and talk to my younger self, but yeah, and so Mango was incorporated based loosely on that inspiration from Stanford,
Yeah.
that the foundational science, a lot of Mango materials has been was early stage science.
Yeah.
So we've been many different types of generations of company from like glorified research project to now commercialization. So I've been on the whole journey and in some ways living the dream of a PhD student to see, your early stage research carried out.
Mm,
Um,
mm. How long has the journey been? When did you first incorporate Mango?
so our first funding was in 2012 from the National Science Foundation.
Yeah.
We got 150,000 grant from the SBIR program, Small Business
Yep.
Innovation Research Program. We thought we'd won the lottery. We thought
100%.
150K was
That's
like
a big deal.
more money we could possibly imagine. It was for 6 months worth of work. And yeah, and like the 3 of us, like I don't even think we had 3 chairs. Like we rotated like who uses the chair and we did like science work. And so like, now that like it's been ages since I've actually done like the hardcore science myself, but we have, a team of operators now who carry out the standard operating procedures at our biomanufacturing facilities. So we
That's right. Yeah. How big's the team now?
oh, that's a tricky question. We fluctuate, but probably around 25 to 30.
Okay. Great. Great. And how much capital have you raised to date?
So we've been through somewhere over 55 million.
Incredible.
Probably about 25, 26 of that is equity.
Yeah.
So we have a lot we've had his like, that first funding was from National Science Foundation that opened up phase 2 and other grant programs and whatever. So, we've actually brought in more and then we have sales, we have, joint development agreements. So we've
Yeah.
actually brought in more non-dilutive money than equity, but yeah.
Which is phenomenal if you can get free money. It is
Yeah,
it is it is better, but it's not
completely
free.
free.
Free's not the right word. Free's not the right word. You know,
But it's not on my cap
non-dilutive.
table. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So that's incredible. I mean, a team of 25 to 30. Obviously, you're more than a decade into this journey. You've raised over $50 million. You've gone from a idea, which sounded like a light bulb of possibility, to validation, to scientific proofing, to manufacturing, to commercialization. Can you tell us about what this looks like in the world right now? Because you've made products. This isn't, once again, this isn't science fiction. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to hear some of those stories of what you're making at Mango Materials.
So what we end up shipping
Yeah.
generally is formulated pellets, and someone else melts that down to make something like a cosmetic or beauty packaging or sunglasses or like a stake for your tree. Like there's plastics all over the place. So we ship pellets and then they get melted down. So we work with a company out of Brazil called Natura. They have a soap dish.
Yep.
And so we ship the pellets to someone that melts them down. That company is called Silgan. And Silgan molds the soap dishes for Natura. Similarly, we have an emblem in a line of Allbirds shoes.
Yep.
We can ship material to Italy to mold into sunglasses that Stella McCartney displayed at
So cool.
COP. We also recently have shipped our pellets to a manufacturer who makes sandbox toys, which
Yep.
when we then sell ourselves. So
Very
that's
cool.
the only unique situation. Generally, we're shipping
Your
pellets to
B2B.
sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So just to play with that. So my glasses are not mango
Stella.
material glasses, but yeah, they're not Stella. But if they were, these frames could be made out of the
Yep.
primary
Yep.
out of methane. I could once again drop them in the environment and they would biodegrade on their own over time. But would their performance still be as good while I'm wearing them, or would they start to melt
No,
my face?
so, PHAs generally need, like, strong enzymatic attack to break down. So,
Got it.
if they're in your house, they're not going anywhere. If you, like, buried them in your potted plant
Yeah.
and watered your plant, and it's m warm and moist in your plant's in your bathroom, so it's, like, warm and moist and whatever, there probably will start to be degradation on your glasses
Which is
over
exactly
time,
what you want.
even in your potted plant, yeah. And then, like, if they end up in a controlled modern environment, like a anaerobic digester or a modern landfill where you're promoting degradation, it'll biodegrade a lot faster.
That is
But yeah,
so
it needs
cool.
that environment, and
Yeah.
it is a di like, there's many types of polymers, even petroleum-based ones, they all have slightly different performance, but yes, you get the same essentially the same performance for something like a sunglasses that you would with
Yeah.
either resin.
Yeah. Okay. So now anyone who's listening to this is then saying, okay, Molly, what's the catch? Because if this is carbon negative, it's obviously plastics and microplastics are a huge issue for human health now. We're finally understanding what they're doing in our bloodstream and everything that's associated with them for ourselves, for our families. There's a lot of newfound awareness around that. There's fear around
Yep,
that. So the world wants this.
yep.
Why isn't it going? I mean, it is going everywhere, but why isn't it going everywhere faster?
Yeah.
What is the catch in terms of where it's currently at?
The big catch is the economics and needing scale. To bring the cost down, you need huge scale. Is like the widely scaled petroleum-based
Yep.
plastics, but they need the scale to get there.
Yep.
So the challenge is how to get that scale. And so that's why those applications that I mentioned,
Yeah.
I didn't mention like thin film plastic carrier bags. That isn't one of our first applications, and one of the reasons is because you need high volume. You also need the perfect mechanical properties, but
Yeah.
you also need really low cost to go in there.
Yeah.
And so for certain applications, there's more wiggle room on the margin.
Yeah.
And so what we really need is more scale, and we need more demand of the material, and then
Yeah.
we need to be able to use that to build a much larger facility that will then bring down the cost.
Yeah.
And it's not just like mango materials, it's not just PHA, it's actually new materials, biomaterials, and
Yes.
that's why starting like we don't do medical, but like starting in applications that are very high margin, low volume tend to be the place to start. So that's
Yeah.
the biggest catch.
And they're brand sensitive. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned
Yes.
Allbirds,
Yes.
Natura.
Yes.
Who is the sunglasses? I'm sorry.
A Stella McCartney.
Yeah, of course. Okay, Stella. Yeah, of
It's like
course.
vegan fashion line.
Yes.
Yeah, like apparel and yeah.
If a company came to you and said, Molly, well, I love this, everything about this. I want to do a $500 million offtake agreement. I know
Yep.
you need to scale to reach that, but I care about price parity, but I want to go really big.
Yep.
Is that an unlock of
Oh,
technologies like this?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially if the thing is that contract would need to be decently firm. It couldn't just be like, "Yay, I
Yeah.
love PHA, I want 500 million pounds." Like, it would need to be like, "Here's the deal, Mango. I will pay X for this performance on these terms over
Yeah.
this period of time." And I'd be like, "Great, let's go. We're building a
Then you could
huge."
go to the bank
Yep.
and you
Yep.
could finance it.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the whole challenge. So, like, yes, my company has been through 55 million, and that sounds like a lot of money, but for what we've done, it's really, really not that much money. Like, we have
Yeah.
an operating biomanufacturing facility, and, like, the whole challenge is the volumes that we're at because you need like, people are like, "Oh," like, the different ways to get profitable, you need to actually be really creative. You can't do it at the scale we're at just directly on pellet sales
Yep.
because you need scale to get there, and that's actually one of the big challenges with the plastics industry.
Mhm.
There's been such successful scaling and such low cost
Yeah.
that, if you're gonna buy apples at the grocery store and put them in a plastic bag, like, you currently can't the grocery store, like, nowhere can support an extra price point. So you either
Totally
need
right.
some
Their
kind
market's
of
too close. Yeah.
exactly, you need an incentive for new alternate materials, or you need some kind of disincentive for the status quo, and that's really hard.
That's hard to do. Yeah, yeah, because the status quo is powerful and has a pretty good lobby, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I am curious, just the size of this, which is at what point would you be marginally close, if not at, this potential of cost parity in terms of how much mango material pellets would need to be bought? And the example I threw out there was somebody says, great, we want to do $500 million offtake
Yeah.
agreement. Is that enough to get us there? Does it? Because obviously, yeah,
That's the order of magnitude you need to be on.
great,
Is it 300,000,000? But it's something like that.
great,
And, like, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars to go into the infrastructure for that, and
100%.
hundreds of millions of dollars of offtake agreements.
Yeah,
And then the type of companies on planet Earth who can make those agreements and are at that scale, this is one of the big, like, the details in the, like, challenge, is that they need such like, they probably need to be testing millions and millions of pounds per year before they do that contract, and that's part of the whole challenge as well.
I got it. Now I'm talking outside of my lane, which is because I really actually want to know this because these large
Yep.
multinationals, especially those that are privately held, so can think and act generationally or long term, not bound by quarterly. What is preventing them from coming to you and saying, "Look, Molly, if you are able to deliver at this quality, this type of pellet, at this volume, at this cost, then we will buy, assuming that's all validated. That all has to be proven. We
Yep.
will do an offtake agreement for 500 million, let's say. What
Yep.
do you think is preventing them from saying that? Because there's no strings attached to that other than they are saying in the future, if you hit all the things we're requiring, then we will have to buy it. But
Yeah.
why doesn't that happen?
Well, like, you made a good point about the companies being private, because I think that's part of it, because really what it comes down to generally is money and finances.
Yeah.
If you're not a private company, like, basically what they're saying is, like, there's just not enough pressure yet for
Yeah.
that. Like, we
Yeah.
have polypropylene, we have polyethylene, we know it's a problem, and by the way, we know PHA will work for our application, like, we've tested it to some various degrees, and yeah, maybe we'll do some kinda limited campaign, like, we'll go to some concert or a stadium sports thing or something and do, like,
Mhm.
some kind of display to make sure we really know it works. Great, 100%, we have a solution in our back pocket for the time when, like, there's an extended producer responsibility, an EPR, where, like, we'll get in trouble if, like, our packaging is found littered in the ocean, or there's some other kind of federal, state, whatever situation going on that they force us, "Okay, we're ready, but there's just, like, not enough pressure yet."
Yeah.
So it's, like, probably the private companies that aren't under that amount of pressure, the ones who could take a stand,
Yeah.
but it's just the scale of the problem and the finances and just what other problems they have that they're dealing with every day. But the thing is, it would only take one. Like, we are
The
thrilled, like,
whole industry
Natura
would
is
follow. Yeah.
exactly, like, we're so thrilled
Mhm.
to have the partners that we have, and Natura is a big company,
Yeah, they're huge.
but, like, we need way more than just them.
Okay, okay. Now, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. You mentioned you were, I think you said you were in like middle school
Yeah,
and you were really into recycling. And then you kind of discovered, hang on, this isn't going to do it.
yeah.
A lot of people think recycling will do it. They'll say, well, hang on. Like, oh, why, it's ending up in the oceans because of landfill. I should just recycle this. Can you talk about the positives of recycling, but then the myths and the drawbacks of
Yeah,
it?
for sure. I mean, sometimes I'm not fun at parties. Like,
Yeah, I'm
you
sure.
know, it's like, oh, and, like, there's a thing in our industry where people go like, "You wanna hear a joke? Recycling."
Oh, no, that's horrible.
But don't get me wrong, like, we should still recycle. I recycle
Absolutely.
in my house, I recycle
Same.
personally. There is a lot of wishful recycling. Recycling is just so hard, and if you look back at the numbers, the percentages that have been recycled, even in California or the US or Italy and other countries that have forward-looking recycling programs, like, the numbers are dismal, dismal, dismal.
Mhm.
They're really low, and for sure, recycling technologies and sorting technologies are getting a lot better, but it is this decentralized mess of a problem, like, the different cities are different, and the MRFs, the material recovery facilities
Mm,
that are in the business of, like, taking the recycling, like, that's a really, really, really hard business financially to be in as
mhm.
well, because at the end of the day, so we produce PHA-based pellets, but
Yep,
you could have recycled-based, like, polypropylene or
of
polyethylene-based
course.
pellets. And so if though it's the same thing, if those are more expensive than your virgin polyethylene-based pellets,
Mhm.
like, you have to have a brand or a consumer or some legislation that you're gonna use the recycled ones, so you need demand for the recycled
Mm,
resin-based pellets. And so the whole financial infrastructure for everyone along that supply chain, from the people picking up the garbage or the municipal solid waste, the trash, whatever you wanna call it, to the groups that are sorting it, cleaning it, what have you, like, everyone needs to make money in that supply chain, and there are a
yeah.
lot of technologies that are helping here, but the volumes are just way too small. They're all a little different. They have different resins, and even people are like, "Oh, well, maybe what we should do is just have polyethylene. We should just have one resin, and then we'll just have
Mm,
one material, and we can deal with that." But the thing is, you have it in different formats, you have it in different some's contaminated with this food, some has cleaning products, it's been coated in different things, it's different colors, um we should do all of that for sure, and some things are much more likely to be successfully recycled, like milk jugs and laundry detergent bottles,
mhm.
like, make sure you always recycle that, like, clear water bottles, like, this is some lower hanging fruit than other things that are more complicated,
Yeah.
but when you look at all the places that plastics are ending up on our planet, in our oceans, on our beaches, in our waterways, in our natural environment, which we even if we have PHA, we never want that to be the disposal
100%.
ground for these materials, but at least if ours end up there, it's part of the naturally occurring carbon cycle, it won't persist indefinitely.
Yeah, yeah. And how long does it take to break down? So if a pair of your Ellen MacArthur glasses ended up in the Atlantic Ocean, and then compare that to traditional plastics.
Yeah, so it depends on the environment, it depends on the shape, and it depends on, like, a couple other things, but if you had a thin film of this material and it ends up in an anaerobic digester, mixing 37 degrees Celsius, everything's perfect, thin film, we're talking probably 7 to 14 days.
Yeah.
If it is your Stella McCartney sunglasses and they end up in the deep sea Arctic, so this is thicker, like it's injection
Yeah.
molded, it's the deep sea Arctic, so things grow like even a banana peel there could take years to break down. It's
100%.
probably gonna take years in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
If it's thinner, it'll be faster. If it's in a warmer tropic type environment, it'll be faster.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on the human health side of things,
Yep.
the difference between your kind of biological little manufacturing factories, these little microbes, and using traditional kind of petrochemical based plastics, whether they're recycled or not. What is the difference when they enter our bloodstream? And do you know?
Oh, yes. We know quite a bit, and it
Okay.
is completely different. A couple things. First, so where a material, comes from, like, is a material bio-based? Is it from plants? Is it from organic plants or non-organic plants? Is
Yeah.
it from oil, petroleum? And is this material biodegradable? Is it prone to enzymatic attack? Will it break down in my potted plant? Will it break down in my body? Those 2 things are actually not related.
Mm,
So, where something's made from, like, if it's made from plants or from rapidly renewable
yep.
biogas, methane, like, that actually doesn't matter. That doesn't influence what the molecular structure is, which is
Yeah.
what influences what happens to it in the natural ecosystem or in your body.
Yep.
So we actually know a lot of and PhD is a family, there's different types. Our favorite yeah, I can go way
Yeah.
too technical, but we like P3HB. We know a lot about its biological processes, including in your body. So
Ah,
there's other groups like Not Mango, that use this for medical applications, and whenever I go to the doctor and talk to them, they're always like, "Oh, like having, like, biodegradable sutures or,
yeah.
scaffolding for hip or shoulder surgery." Like, if you use our material in your body or, like, if you use PHA, it can be, like, consumed by the body naturally, so then you don't have to go back in and retrieve,
Oh,
stuff
wow.
inside your body. Yeah, and, others actually use you can use, like, one form of poly-3-hydroxybutyrate to go into ketosis, like, also, like, not what we do, but
Got
anyway,
it.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Lose some weight. Understood.
It can influence different processes. So, yeah, so this is completely different than the molecules that are generally being referred to when you hear about microplastics and like accumulation in the human body or other parts of nature. It's the problem there is the molecular structure of that material that's ending up in your body. And so the benefit of PHAs is inherent to their molecular structure, and that's why they break down in your body. It's actually not
Mm,
because they're from plants or whatever.
yeah. So cool. Feels like you found the unicorn. So if we go way back, yeah, I would love to hear, because I don't know, I would love to hear how your childhood informed who you've become.
So yeah, I'm from a very sort of atypical type family. My mom and dad were like super loving, very supportive, from very different backgrounds. My parents,
Mm,
my mom and my dad, and I think that's really influenced who I am. Like my
yeah.
mom was from like a big family. She was the oldest of many kids and kind of like the
Yep.
boss of her family. And um she was first generation college, got, like, a scholarship, like, the first to ever have even, like, dreamed of going to college,
Incredible.
and then I have my dad's still alive, my dad who's, like, parents met in college and, like, his, like, great aunt was one of the first women to get a PhD from some university in Germany, and she actually had to go to Germany because, like, they weren't accepting women into PhD programs in
Wow.
the US. This was a million years ago. My dad's family is, like, well-educated, a lot of inventors. So,
Yeah.
Samuel F.B. Morse, who developed the Morse code, is, like, d many generations back related to me.
That's in your family tree? How cool is that?
Yeah, and then my dad's grandfather, had a company called Morse Chain, which was the first to patent and commercialize the bicycle chain.
Oh, very
So
cool.
this was also like, I don't know, like generations ago for me. But anyway, he had a lot of patents, not just the bicycle chain. And so I actually grew up with his, and people find this funny. I grew up with some of his patents on the wall of our hallway, like outside my bedroom.
Very
And
cool.
and so, he had a lot of I guess I'm his great granddaughter, but he had a lot of grandchildren, so they all got divided up. So my family ended up with 2, but I'm
Yeah.
the oldest. I have a brother and sister. We have 3 kids, and there was 2 patents on the wall. So it was
No,
always kind of a joke over who would get the patents, and from, like, a
love it.
very young age, I was like, "No, you 2 can have them because 'cause I'm gonna have my own."
Love it. By the way, how many patents do you have now? Mango Materials?
I'm actually not sure. I mean, not that many.
Okay.
There's one core one on our bioreactor technology, but there's a bunch on
Yeah.
undergrad in various stages of whatever advancement.
Yeah. 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 Okay. You were raised in a family of very brilliant, high achieving, academically credentialed inventors. You also said something really interesting there where you said your mom's dad had to study in Germany for her PhD
Oh, that
because
was my dad's on my dad's side. Yep.
on your, oh, sorry, your dad's
Yep.
mom. Sorry. Yeah. It's interesting because you said that was a really long time ago. But
Yeah.
when we look at today's market, like we also know, and you know this far better than I do, that it's less than 3% of venture capital goes to women-led companies.
Yeah.
And so you've been swimming against a current of the status quo. You raised over 50 million. Like you said, it's a lot in some ways, and in some ways it's just starting. But how has the journey been for you to be in a hard science, deep tech, need to raise a lot of capital because of capex expenditure and being a women-led company.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things about various people's backgrounds that influence them. So yes, I was born female and I identify as female, whatever, and, like, I also look like yeah, like, there's all different types of people with all different types of backgrounds,
Yeah,
and it can be really challenging, like, probably everyone has something they're up against and, that makes them unique or that makes them memorable, right? So,
yeah,
like, yeah, there weren't I mean, there are way more even undergrad women engineering students now and PhDs and founders, but it's still, like, all those things are very few and far between, and you look
yeah,
at biomanufacturing companies, very few women, and actually so my 2 co-founders are also female.
yeah,
So and there's probably somehow an answer to your question in that
yeah,
we band together. This is the world we live in. We support each other in that capacity. That's my day in, day out life. But yes, I generally the people that we all work with day in, day out are generally older than us and male.
yeah,
Venture capital is very male. The whole venture capital and raising money thing, that's challenging and and sometimes I look back at my investors and I'm like, Wow, it's like interesting to think of their background and who was there, and what that journey has been like. And I have two children, and that's part of who I am as well. But that honestly is still viewed as a risk,
Mm,
and I've been told that directly.
it's wild.
And so the one thing about mango is like I love to like focus on the future and dream of what this could be like and
Mm,
think like, okay, if we use this greenhouse gas to make materials and we can do this wherever there's methane present at all these anaerobic digesters all over the world, then we can make PHA and we could change the fate of plastic. It would look so different. I like to spend a lot of time in that hopeful spot. And I
mm,
also like to think like I want a world where mom CEOs can be their full self at work and like
amen.
also come home and have kids and like also know that like we will be judged. And like I think there is something to be said about female founders being judged in different ways if there's any kind of
Mm,
struggle or whatever. Like, do you come across like a strong, confident leader? Do you come across kind of bitchy? Like that's a real thing, and a hard line to navigate. But it's something we've been doing since the beginning, and
mm,
you'd also be surprised how many huge allies we've had out there. And
yeah,
it's not always the women. Like sometimes it's the old
100%.
men in the plastics industry who are like things need to change, and the change is going to look different. So we'll support you. So yeah,
Totally right. Thank you for touching on that. I also kind of pulled you out, I think, a little bit of your story, your background, your childhood, in that you were clearly surrounded by, this innovative, very smart, credentialed environment. I would say with a legacy of creating things and building things that are on the walls as you're a kid walking by. Um, but what pulled you into? Because you said at the very start of this that you always like had a love for the environment. You always wanted to work on
yeah,
waste. Like not most.
yeah.
I think you were saying 7, 8 year olds necessarily are like really concerned about that. Do you know your like deep why as to
You
not
know,
why starting a company, but why you're trying to bring business into right relationship with nature.
So I've been into this for a really long time, and like I don't know the deep why, but it's probably something like I was just somehow born this way. Like I don't know, but
Mm,
for sure there was like a couple things that happened in elementary school. Like there was an activist that came, I think, in second grade to talk about recycling. I didn't know about recycling then, but they
yeah.
talked about recycling and what we should be doing, and I took it as my mission to make sure everyone recycled. I'd go through the trash everywhere and like
I
pull
could
out the
see that. I
recyclings.
could see little
Like
Molly like
yes,
really
exactly.
telling people what to do then.
Come in and be like,
That's so cool.
"Who put the aluminum can in the trash can?"
Yep, 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 yep.
Um, so, yeah, so, like, there was something about that that spoke to me.
Mm,
I there was a lot of things that I was exposed to, we went on a field trip to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and there was a lot of things like that that just always stayed with me. And I would say that, like, my dad's family, so my dad's dad was a, like, theoretical, like, math he was a math professor at UC
yeah.
Berkeley. So they were kinda like that, but my mom's family was the one who was kinda like and I don't mean that they're not
Yeah, yeah.
practical, but
Totally.
my mom's family
Totally.
was the one who was, like, very, like, practical, and I think that that's the combination in business of, like, kind of the technical side versus the business side with my mom and my dad.
Yeah.
Um, with my mom being like, "Okay, like, this is what we have, we're gonna make it work, we're gonna figure this out." Like, my mom's ancestors were Irish immigrants, and they had to, like, deal with all of that. And then my dad's family was probably historically kind of yours, maybe a little more stereotypical privileged background. And so that combination in me of being
Very
able to
interesting.
solve this problem and be like, oh, well, the bioreactor foamed, we're going to figure this out.
You've been doing this now for 16 plus years with mango materials. It seems like when challenges hit you, you like reorient around them. Like you have a warped perspective. You want to solve them instead of get burdened by them potentially. And I might be wrong about that, but that's the
Yeah.
feeling I have with you. And
Yeah.
I'm curious if in 16 years, it's a long time, and now you're into commercialization. Yes, but now you may have another 30 years in front of you to when this really realizes its full potential and this is the new way that we go about there is no other alternative in that sense because this is so much better. What have you ever wanted to give up along that journey? Have there been moments where it was so hard that you were like, I just can't do this?
Well, The thing is like if you had 16 years ago be the inception, that was actually even before Mango was incorporated. So it's like I either consider like the start of my PhD, which would be like over 20 years.
Wow.
Mango Materials has had different eras for sure, and probably like anybody, anywhere, in any kind of job, there's always moments of doubt, and, like,
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person and I don't know if we're gonna go into Enneagram or Working Genius or whatever the heck, but I'm, like,
Totally.
kind of the person that, like, generally it's good. Like,
Yeah.
99.9% of the time. Oh, and don't get me wrong, there's problems, and, one thing I want to mention is that so, like, I'm an engineer by training,
Yeah.
so I even do this like it's almost a problem with friends. It's like, I wanna solve your problem, and then sometimes I have to be like, "Are you looking for solutions? Or are you looking for support?" Because
Yeah. Yeah.
some
Totally. Because you just want to solve it.
Yes, exactly. So I'm gonna be like, "Okay, problem. Problem is one side of the equation. What are the variables we can use to get rid of that problem?" And I love this with
Amen.
anything. Like,
Yeah.
if you're waiting in line at the grocery store, I need to, like,
Mm,
figure out why one line is long. Or if somebody has a personal problem, like, what are we trying to optimize here?
that's right.
Same thing at work. So when we have problems, I just get into strategic problem-solving mode, and I'm very comfortable there thinking of this like an engineering problem.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there's also something just personality-based that, yeah, like 99.9% of the time, I'm super happy, and then 0.1% of the time, I'm like, I think maybe, there's actually some genetic things that people have written books about that, like, maybe
Yeah.
entrepreneurs and certain types of people, they're, like, kinda crazy. There's a book called, like, the
The
Hypo
Hypomanic Edge.
Yes, exactly.
It's a good
I
book.
read
It
that.
explained myself to myself 15 years
So,
ago.
yeah, 0.1% of the time, I'm like, maybe I have a really high functioning, like, disorder that is beneficial most of the time, but here we
Exactly.
are.
Yep. In those maybe in any moments of doubt, like what do you turn to? Is it friends? Is it co-founders? Is it the science? Is it sitting alone in nature, meditate? Like I'm curious how you get through those.
It's
Yeah.
all of
Okay.
that. A couple things you didn't mention
Mm,
is music. So, sometimes I go through a period of time and I'll have certain songs that'll make me feel better. And the other thing is I
mm,
read a lot. Um, I read a lot. So sometimes
yeah.
I'm to the point that, like, Essentialism is one of my favorite books, and I'm to the point now I've read it so
Haven't
many
read it
times,
yet.
I actually have notes that I've taken on it. So if I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I can go back now and actually just read my notes on the book, I don't even have to read the whole book again. And it makes me, like, feel better, and it makes me feel like I have control,
Yeah.
um, and I can focus on the essential thing that truly matters, like, what's the next right step I can do, and
Mm,
we were talking a little bit about control before we started filming, and, like, there's an element of that in
yeah.
there as well. And so there's
Yeah.
a whole bunch of things, and it depends on the problem, and I do think I've gotten better and better and better at this as I've gotten older, and I think that that's kind of the
Mm,
only way to become an expert in managing stress, chaos,
mm,
uncertainty. And I'm by no means an expert, but I am a huge connoisseur of things written, in this space. I have different,
yeah.
like, do you need a long run? Do you need strength training? Do you need to go sit in nature by yourself? Do you need to go on a hike with all your friends? Do you need to go see a movie? Do you need some kind of, like, project, like, something to put together or something? And actually, interestingly, growing up, my dad's dad, the Berkeley math professor, who I never even really knew, but, apparently he was really into plumbing around the house, like, he'd like to do his plumbing, and he would, like, redo his plumbing so that you could get, like, hot water instantly at, like, any faucet in the whole entire house somehow. I don't know. I'm
How
never been
cool
my
is that?
thing, but apparently he liked to do that when he was working on, like, hard math theorems or something, and so my dad and my mom said
Mhm,
that, like, works a different part of your brain, and so, like, maybe you need a
mhm.
different problem to be thinking about.
Yeah, I'm just feeling into this. My wife and I hope to become parents soon. We're not parents
Oh,
yet. And you've mentioned a couple times your mom, you have two kids.
yep.
I am at there is a certain level of chaos that I
Oh,
imagine comes
yeah.
from that.
Oh,
Um,
yep.
I am curious how being a mom has informed how you are a CEO and how being a CEO has informed how you're a mom. You are the same person across both
Yep.
those,
Yep.
and I can see it as you had people say, "Oh, it's like they want to discount, the company if you're also a mom." And I imagine a reality where actually they compound on top
Yep.
of each other. So I'd love to explore that a little bit.
I don't think I've ever talked about this. It is really interesting, and there's lots of overlap, and, like,
Mm.
The concern I was specifically told was that it would be distract. Oh, and actually, I think I had kids, and the investor didn't know. But like the concern was that I would be distracted with my kids. That was the concern. I've actually probably historically dealt with that, similar to when we were talking about when you have problems like compartmentalizing learning. Like I have certain processes in my life and certain support
Yeah.
systems I set up or whatever. That's like, and it's hard. It's still hard. My kids are also a lot older right now, or not a
Yeah.
lot older, but like they're at a stage where like it's actually kind of fun sometimes even to talk about problems at work because they'll have
Very
opinions.
cool. Oh, they'll
I'm
have such different opinions too, I
Yes,
imagine,
and, like,
like such
so
fresh perspectives.
we talked a little bit about sandbox toys,
Yes.
and I'm super excited about that, and we can talk more about it, but my
Yeah.
older son, he's 14, he does not think this is cool at all. "Mom, 3D printing filament is where it is at. Let me tell you, it is a
Ah.
growing market. Your material, prints" because
Because you already have the pellets. Yeah, yeah.
well, so we've actually, in-house, like, made 3D printing filament, and then, I brought it home and my son's played with it on the 3D printer and just made stuff, like, it somehow prints a little differently, it has
Hmm.
good adhesion, I don't know, something, anyway, my son is like, "This is the future, mom, like, this is the future, can you please, like." He the other day, he, like, I don't know, was convincing me to reach out to 3D printing influencers or something because he's like,
Oh.
"This is your future." So anyway, going back to the whole parent thing, like, it's fun now that they're, like, at that point.
Hmm.
Was telling me something really funny the other
Hmm.
day about like, "Well, you're the boss, so blah, blah, blah,
Hmm.
blah, blah."
Hmm.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
So it definitely influences how I parent. I have boys, but when I was little, it would also influence other things related to little girls because I'm
Hmm.
very sensitive of like, if a little girl is building or something or wants to be an astronaut or whatever, making sure that they can be able to identify themselves and that that's encouraged. So I'm very,
Hmm.
very sensitive to anything like education related that could be promoting boys. And it's like, there's somehow in our school district, once you get to 6th grade, there's like a more advanced math than a normal math, and they do different ways of kind of
Hmm.
encouraging or discouraging people to be in the accelerated math. And oh, let me tell you, ooh, if you're not encouraging the girls, and they like math and they want to do it, like girls and boys respond differently, and like even my kids do. And so anyway,
Maybe the question to articulate is, how has being a mom informed who you've become that has impacted how you lead?
for better or for worse, it kind of goes back to the essentialism book. I think about what's the most important thing right now in the moment that's in. And I think about it for my team members as well. If they have something going on outside of work, and this doesn't mean that a parent can be like that, but like I'm very much like, what's the most important thing here and now? Like, okay, like go home,
Mm.
go home,
Yeah.
go home.
Yeah.
Like, if they have something like that. And I also think there's many
Yes.
ways to be a parent. Like I have biological children, but like you can be a teacher. I love being an
You'd be a
auntie. That's
great
the
auntie.
best job ever. One day my dream would be to be a grandmother.
Yeah, yeah, you will be.
I don't know, sometimes with my kids, I'm like, I don't know if there's any. Anyway, like, there's so many ways to be a parent, but and so, like, you don't need to have your own biological children, but to think beyond yourself and to think of the other, like, whether when kids are so when they're little, like, they believe anything is possible, right? And that's, like, normal for them. So to stay in that space and to stay in that like, I don't know, there's books written about, like, how
Yeah.
you keep play current or whatever. When I read this, I'm like, "I don't know, somehow I never outgrew that, like, ever." Like, it's very natural for me. But I think kids can bring that into actually a leadership perspective, and then there's a whole bunch of little detailed
Mhm.
things about being, like, really clear what you want, very clear guidelines, what's
Yeah.
acceptable in this situation for children and for companies of, like, what's the goal? What is the plan? How are we gonna get there? Make sure we've articulated it. Nobody can read your mind, so be very clear over what you want here. Friends will be like, "Okay,
Of
CEO
course.
Molly," or something, when I'm like, "Oh, if friends can't make a decision or how we're" they're like, "Okay, here's the" I'm in a book club, and I, like, made us have a like, a procedure over how we choose the next book. Anyway, they're just like, "Okay, CEO Molly," and then same thing.
Processes matter. Hell yeah, we know, what's that quote? You don't rise to the level of your aspirations, you fall to the level of your systems. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
I
it
love that
applies
quote.
to everything.
I
I imagine you do. I imagine, which
100%.
is why it's really good that you're in a industrial commercialization factory production oriented company. because you will crush that in terms of getting this to scale. I know we're almost there to the end of the conversation. I had two questions I have, but the first one is just take a minute. You said you love to kind of dwell in some ways to see the future clearly, and a future that is much brighter than the present or the past. And in regards to mango materials, can you paint the picture? This realizes its full potential. After this podcast airs, X, Y, and Z company reach out to you with a $500 million offtake agreement each. But let's go forward. However far you want to go, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is. When this has replaced the incumbent, and when Mango Materials is the replacement for a large scale of the plastic products that we buy, what does it look like?
Oh, well, that 500 million pounds is very much just the infancy, the beginning of the big
Yeah.
dreams. So, like, the vision we have is that you can use methane. I mentioned this a little bit before, but all forms of methane. Maybe this makes so much economic sense to use methane to feed to bacteria, to make PHA, to change plastics. We're doing it wherever methane's present. And actually, it makes so much sense. We're taking
Mm.
all our organic mass. We're taking all our organic waste. We're taking agricultural waste. Maybe in countries where we don't have so much waste infrastructure, it now makes sense to collect, to put in like sanitation projects because we want the methane for all the organic
You
waste.
want to
We're going to make
because of the economics of capturing the methane.
exactly, exactly. We've made methane so valuable, we want to convert all the carbon that we
Mm.
have into methane. And we're sure we'll use it for electricity and we'll use it for fuel and we can use it for other things as well. But we are going to and nutrition, you can actually do that through different routes. But we are going to make so much PHA and that we will drastically change the way plastics are used. So and maybe we don't want all plastics on the planet to be PHA, but like anything that's rapidly used, like all
Yeah.
single-use materials, we can and then in this vision, we would take all the food packaging, all the food waste, we'd single stream it into anaerobic digestion to produce more methane, to make more materials and electricity and fuel and food. And we could do this regionally. And so we could have all these decentralized regions of economic resiliency. And then everything is so smooth running and so great that as we deploy through the galaxy, there's methane in other solar systems. There's actually methane on Titan and elsewhere. We use methane as we deploy as the feedstock to make materials wherever we go. And this is the status quo.
So cool. So Molly, I figured you out. You're actually an alchemist because you're taking one of the most potent, prolific wastes of our time, and one of the most powerful and potent wastes of our time, and you're converting it into value. But you're converting it into value in a way that is then fully circular and also good for not just our biology, but the biology of our planet.
Yep.
It's fucking incredible, for lack of a better adjective. Anybody who's tuning in, this includes myself now. We see the future that you're painting. We know you've been working on this. Depends on where you draw that line, 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, sure.
We
Yeah.
we know you're already in market. Like, this works. If we're going to bet on anybody, it's going to be you and your team at Mango. How can we become a part of the solution? How can we become a part of the story that you're writing?
I guess the number one thing is to purchase products made with
Mm.
PHA. What of course I love ours best, but like any form of PHA produced by anybody and like new materials in general, it's so hard. So I would say, and to support those endeavors, and it's really, really complicated. We didn't talk about this really, but legislation, single-use plastic bans, this stuff, like often it's not written very forward thinking and it can actually be an
Mm.
obstacle sometimes, but
Could
good
hinder
policy.
innovation.
Exactly, there's a lot of that going on right now, a lot, but
Mhm.
anyway, but being aware of that, actually just being aware that actually, like, these problems are really complicated, and if we want materials to be compostable versus biodegradable, what does that even mean? And what is the ideal end of life of materials? Just being aware. Number 1, being
Yeah.
aware. Number 2, purchasing things with new materials, like, voting with your wallet. Our material, formulated PHA, we've actually branded it as YOPP, YOPP. It
Love
stands
it.
for You Omit Polluting Plastics.
Love
So
it.
we have a website called madewithyop.com, and it's
Yep.
still being advanced, but we have our sandbox toys there. So anybody who's interested in taking, if you do happen to need, to go to a baby shower and you want to bring something, there's
Hang on.
sandbox
I
toys.
can buy your sandbox toys right now. If I have
Yep,
kids, we have a sandbox.
yep,
I can buy
yep,
toys that are made out of
yep,
methane that are good for their health and planet.
yep.
Where do I buy those?
Madewithyop.com.
Madewithyop.com.
YOPP.com. Yeah, you can get to it from mangomaterials.com too.
Love it.
And like some of our materials, actually, we do purchase plant-based PHA from others. So some of it's methane-based, some of it's plant-based, because we're trying to elevate
Incredible.
these new materials, elevate PHA. It's a number one way that could be supported. Although we're always anyone who's looking for 500 million or 1 billion pounds of biodegradable materials and wants to do a long-term purchase offtake agreement or
Yes,
help
it's
us
real.
build that big gas fermentation factory, love to
Very
do it.
real.
So.
That's very real. And are you? We can't speak to the details, but are you looking for investors? Is that active, or is it really customers now?
I mean, we're not in the midst of a price
Yeah.
round right now, but we are always interested in talking to investors who might be a part of this journey in any way, shape, or form, whether it's on the material side or the company side or what have you.
So cool, Molly. I didn't ask. This is now. I'm getting greedy with my questions. Why mango materials? Why? Because what does this have to do with mangoes?
Nothing. It has nothing to do with mangoes. We love mangoes. They're delicious. We named
Who
the
doesn't?
company after our favorite fruit.
That's it. It was so simple. Okay. I have to say, just in reflection on this conversation, it's been a huge privilege and a pleasure, and your brilliance shines through. But you just summed it up as well, which is like your playfulness does too. And I can't imagine being able to do this unless you're able to have fun along the way, unless you're able to laugh at the difficulties and the hardships and going against like such a large orthodoxy or status quo that is so powerful. And I think it feels to me it's like your humor, it's your levity, it's your clarity of vision that will see you through this to ensure that it really becomes a reality. So thank you for being you, Molly, for being a part of the fellowship for this conversation, and for pulling a brighter future into the present. Like this really matters, and this has been heartwarming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.